Hello everyone. Once again, this is Dare to Speak. This is very difficult to talk about. It's very hard to talk about. It will sound far-fetched to many people, I guess. The memory that I had that was very vivid, having to do with my own personal experience of alien abduction. It's kind of, I'm still trying to figure out why they did what they did. Maybe some of you might know exactly what's going on. I do remember that I was always afraid sometimes at night. I was about maybe 6 years old, possibly 6 years old. And I was always afraid of the chandelier in this dining room that we had. There was no table in the middle. It was turned into a more like a living room kind of thing. Just the way it was set up that way. But there was a couch, and for some strange reason, I was always afraid of the chandelier. It was always disturbing to me. I remember a bunch of times. And I would have vivid dreams, weird dreams, that the chandelier was like a gateway to something. I remember being levitated off the bed, or, in a situation where I'm sleeping, and I'm being levitated into the living room, right underneath the chandelier, and then I would just go up. And then instead of it just hitting the chandelier like you would normally think, because parts will start falling off and stuff like that, instead of doing that, it's just like a power vacuum. I remember being just like sucked up into it, and I would be aboard this UFO, this ship. There was no, as far as I know, there was no memory of me going through the window or them taking me up that way or anything like that, but it was really weird. But I did have an experience that it wasn't a dream, and it was very similar to that. And I always hated that fucking chandelier. There was times where I just there was plenty of times where I ignored it when I was a kid, playing around. And I didn't think much of it, but there was times every now and then where it just got to me. Anyways, when I was on this ship, I remember I always fucking remembered that I was being put in a situation where I was put into a maze, which was the cause of my claustrophobia, because I have claustrophobia. Like, I can't go into a CAT scan. If I were to lay down and go into a CAT scan, I would panic. I would get claustrophobic like crazy, and I was actually panicking. And even one time when I would go into it feet first, and I would stop at my chest, because they were checking something on my knee or something like that. I don't know. Checking for something. I would always be very scared. But of course, it wasn't as bad as being put in head first. I was always put into like a tunnel some kind of maze, something that was very similar to that Chuck E. Cheese factory, where kids, when that little maze thing, when kids go in through it, and they and there's slides, and there's a different and this and that, but there's also these little tunnels. Excuse me. It was something similar to that, except it was all metal. And I remember sliding down or going down these type of metal type tunnels, and then I would go at, and I was forced to, I had to crawl it and go through these mazes. But for some strange reason, it was like always the same scenario. I would go into one direction and then move into another one, and it was always the same. And like I kind of knew where I was going, but at the same time, I don't know. I just couldn't explain it. I'm sorry. The thing is, there was also a giant funnel that I had to go through. And, you know, just like those fun houses where you see those, like a tunnel kind of thing that moves clockwise or counterclock, and then you have to walk through it and stuff like that. I was always phobic of that one too. Those things always made me very phobic. But this one was a funnel, and I had no fucking choice but to go in there. And I always hated going through that fucking funnel. And there was times where I remembered, I don't know why, I don't know if they made me do it, or I just unconsciously did it, or I don't know what the case was, but I would actually go into the funnel with my arms pinned. Instead of having my arms out like that, you know, it would be pinned, and I would go in there and I would get stuck. And as I was getting stuck, I would panic. And I would panic so much that I remember passing out from fear or any number of things. I don't know exactly what. And that would happen a lot. But then there was a couple of times, I don't know how many, but there was a few times, which was rare, that I remember being in the same situation where I got stuck the same way, but I would actually calm myself down. And as I calmed myself down, I thought, you know, through my mind, I'm gonna go through it. I'm gonna slide through, even though it was a tight squeeze, but I was able to move through it like nothing. And I would end up in this giant room, I don't know what, and I would have to go through the whole thing again. And there was also something that almost looked like a fun house kind of thing, where there's doors, something like Tim Burton, kind of like Beetlejuice type of weird doors and doorways and these platforms and all these kind of weird shit. I don't know, it was really weird. And I would actually go into it. The point is, I don't know what the reason was for me having to go through that over and over again. Maybe it was to test out what I'm capable of doing, what I'm able to figure out. What I did know, which always fucking happened, that the alien beings that I saw on this ship, which I cannot say exactly who or what they are, but they're not the Greys or the I don't remember seeing any mantis type or insectoids. But these particular ones, which were very horrifying, extremely horrifying. But what they did not like, which always pissed them off, is that I would stare at them. Even though I was terrified, I would just like, you know, I was a 6-year-old kid. I was 6 years old, and I would just stare at them. I could have done that possibly at 5 years old. Who knows how young when they started doing that shit to me? Because I saw my first UFO at 5. And whenever I would stare at them for a good maybe 10 seconds, I think, around there, and they would look at me, and we would lock eyes, and we would look at each other, and they would get extremely angry, and somehow they would turn my face away. They did not want me to look at them. And I couldn't understand that at 6 years old. I couldn't, and even through my teenage years, I couldn't understand that. I think that the main reason why they didn't want me to stare at them was because they figured it out. They figured out that I was psychic. And if I look into their eyes, just like that famous saying, the eyes are the windows to the soul, I could actually read their minds. I could actually read their minds. And they didn't want me to do that, so they had me quickly turn away. Somehow, I don't know how they do what they do. I don't know, but that's what I would actually end up happening. And these creatures were nightmarish ugly. I mean, they were fucking ugly and nightmarish. It's not the type of face that you would want to see. And yet, I was able to somewhat, to a mild degree, I was able to handle it. Anyways, maybe some of you could actually figure out why they did what they did from everything that I just explained. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Questions or comments, you know what to do. This is Dare to Speak, and to all of you, take care.